Hey guys, Nick here, and today we're going to talk about the Shangri-La from the 15th anniversary bundle. Yeah, I was supposed to have this out about a week ago, but as my friend Easy Shay would like to say, I have been procrastinating. The Shangri-La Command Warship. Just a little backstory on my build for this. What, 2 weekends ago, 3 weekends ago, I was doing a stream on the pulse phases after they got reworked, and I was like, I want to do a Connie with pulse phases. Yeah, started it, really wasn't too happy. I was like, let's make it into a tank. Started that process, really wasn't too happy with it. A few days later, the 15th anniversary drops. Boom, we have the Shangri-La Command warship. A Connie with command that I can use my pulse phases on. That will tank really well. And I went, this is perfect for my plan and my video. So here it is, the Shangri-La Command warship. But my as I like to call it, the USS tank number 15,667, because I have a lot of tank builds now. So guys, so the plan for this one was I wanted to use a lot of the pieces from the 15th anniversary bundle. So mainly the broadside combat module. I was going to use the Kerala trait, which is the it's coming up here. I think it was it full broadside? The broadside beam support. Sorry, that took a minute, everybody. So I was going to use this trait on this build and have the double whammy of the pulse phases going everywhere, but I was just having some, I don't know, issues with my fire at will. So guys, if you have better fire roll uptime than me, you can probably swap off redirecting arrays and swap this trait in just to have that spammy pulse phaser build going everywhere. But for now, I'm going to stick with the double fire at will extension trades because it's what's performing the best for me right now. So I'm gonna stick with that. But just a note, this build is a little bit more it's a bit more damage oriented than my normal ships would be, but it works. I'd say I wouldn't call this a tank build. I would call this a tanky build. It does dual threat, it does live well, but it's not like that. If I look away for 30 seconds, it's going to live through Hive without me paying a lot of attention. It does require your timings a little bit with DPRM and RSP, but it does do a lot of damage. So if you're not diving into the middle of Hive, you got no real worries if you were to copy this build. All right, guys. So first up, we have 7 pulse phaser beam arrays because I don't have the Omni and I didn't want to use the Terran Task Force to boost that one. I want to just keep this a little bit thematic with pulse phasers. Guys, those are from the lockbox and now from the exchange, from the Infinity lockbox. Again, I can't remember what original lockbox it come from, but I got them from the Infinity lockbox. Next up, we have the Dark Matter Quantum Torpedo Launcher from the Discovery Legends reputation, and the 2-piece with the Lorca's custom fire controls, because this was a little bit more of a damage oriented build. So on crit plus to my crit severity, so it's a boost to my damage, and you'll find that the Dark Matter Quantum Torpedo with Chemosite Lace weaponry and Entropic Rider and all that, they start to do rather well and stack up a lot of damage. Next up, we have the non-baronic matter deflector array. We have the prevailing innervated impulse engines, the mycelial harmonic matter antimatter core, and the Tilly's review pending modified shield. So everybody, this is my standard deflector, impulse, warp, and shields for most of my tank builds. Sometimes you might find that because I'm in the patrol that you won't see, I might now run the Kittimer shield that does the anti-proton damage when your shields go down, so that's really good with the Borg. And then I'll run the Discovery impulse engine so that I still have my Disco 3-piece, but I also have the Kittimer shield on maybe a bit more maneuverable tank, or when I'm running a Hive-specific tank, because I know I don't really need the comp engines to move that much. Next up, we have the Broadside Combat Module. Guys, if you don't know what this does, it's pretty similar to what, self-explanatory on, it's a bunch of beams that just shoot out from the sides. So it's a 5-second duration of high burst phaser damage. So like with Hive, I like to just fly into the middle, hit the console, and it's bursting phasers everywhere, and it's grabbing threat and doing a lot of damage for me. But because this is sort of a theme pulse phaser build, I wanted to make sure that I had this on my build. Next up, we have the Antimatter Interweave. And if you guys don't know where this comes from, this is from the 15th anniversary of the Kerala. So I can show you real quick. From the Kerala, the Kerala Temporal Battlecruiser, which also has the broadside beam support trait. So the Kerala was a lot of broadsiding buffs to the game recently. So I'm not going to do a video on that, everybody. I was thinking about it and went, no, that's not really my style. But just a note, side note, the Kerala has some really nice phaser fire at will console and traits on it. Next up, the Antimatter Interweave from our Obina Miracle Worker Cruiser. So if you don't know what this does, basically this is scaling damage resistance rating as your hull goes down. So being a squishier ship, and to be honest, all my tanks are going to use this console because it also does a fair bit of damage when it gets to 10 stacks. You see at 10 stacks, you get a 54,900 radiation pulse in a 3-kilometer radius around you. But that, you find, is when you get all the way to 0 HP, if you look on ground, it shows you its max potential. It's 630 damage resistance rating. So that really is going to fill in my damage resistance rating very nicely as I'm getting low. It's going to really, really bring it up. So as soon as if I'm getting a little lower, it's going to make me even tankier, and then I can just fill that in and try and bring myself back up with your reverse shield polarity to bring my shields up, to then bring my hull regen up, and so on. Next up, this is where some more of the theme of the 15th anniversary comes in, and also I just thought it would work really well with this build because the Shangri-La doesn't have a track fire. I thought, you know what, some taunt consoles might work rather well to make sure I've got all the aggro I need. So I'm running the Scatter Pack and Weasels from the Arc Royal. The Arc Royal, I just call myself there, everybody. So I want to, don't want to hear, it's not Royale, Nick, Arc Royal. Because you look at the stats and go, it's 15% maximum shield capacity, 5% shield resistance, so that's good tank stats. And it summons 4 Wild Weasels, 4 Scatter Pack Shuttles, Wild Weasels attack and taunt. The Scatter Packs move to untargeted enemies and explode into multiple warheads, dealing 4 times 5,400 kinetic damage, up to 5 targets in a 2-kilometer radius, and it's a 1-minute recharge. So the damage isn't great, but if you need to grab the aggro of something on a 1-minute recharge, this is a nice little option. And if I'm not in combat now, so I don't think I'll be able to get myself there. Yeah, I won't be able to get myself to launch these shuttles because you have to target something. It's a nice little visual too. Next up, the Bioneural Infusion Circuits from the Low Base store. So I think you guys, if you've heard it once, you've heard it 100 times from me. Great stats for tanking. Control is very nice. Hull capacity is very nice. And crit severity is very nice. It's just good stats and nothing's wasted. Next up, we have the Subspace Fracture Tunneling Field. So with a passive, it's 30% hull regeneration, not reduced during combat. So it's just a constant 30% hull regeneration. That's rather nice. But the main reason we use it is for the clicky console. I don't think I'm going to be able to get it off while I'm in this patrol. But basically, it's a 25% cooldown reduction on your universal consoles. So you're using your consoles like your Adaptive Emergency, your Guardian, your DPRM, your Temporal Disorder, and boom, you hit the Subspace Fracture Tunneling, and you have 25% of its cooldown back every 30 seconds. So it means that these builds that rely on a lot of universal consoles, they are up extremely often and provide a lot of the power base of these builds nowadays. Next up, we have the Dynamic Power Redistributor Module, otherwise known as the DPRM. Otherwise, for a lot of people, is the best single target heal in the game. 500% hull regeneration, 100% bonus damage resistance rating, and 40 bonus damage. So if you sit here and look at my damage resistance rating, without nothing running, 43, 43, 36, we hit the DPRM, boom, 70, basically almost 70 across the board. So it's all like 30%, 35% boost to my damage resistance rating in some categories. You pair that alongside like the adaptive emergency system, go down fighting, and suddenly, even on a ship without a track fire, even on a warship, suddenly I'm in the high 70s for my damage resistance rating before I look at Honor Dead and several other things that boost my damage resistance rating, so it makes me rather tanky. Next up, we have the Temporal Disorder console. Guys, so I run this because if you look at it, it creates 4 ships which taunt, plus on death do a radiation explosion, and they last a fairly long time, and they're always just grabbing threat. That helps with this ship that doesn't have a track fire with my threat generation is you've got these 4 ships that are out and about, they're grabbing aggro and they're taunting for you, and it does count towards your attacks in, so it's a rather nice tank tool for those who don't have like everything in the game, maybe don't have the best damage in output to then have the threat generation they really need. So this is a nice little tool to have up here to grab a little bit of aggro. Next up, we have the particle conversion matrix, otherwise known as the Guardian console. So guys, if you don't know the Guardian console, the same console comes from either ship. So if you have either or, you have this console. And it's been coming back into the meta recently because of the subspace fracture tunneling console, because it used to be thought as not very good because of only a 20-second uptime. But if you're taking the hits, it says incoming energy damage adds 10%, so it's 100 energy damage and 100 exotic damage, but it also extends the time. So with it extending the time, and then with Uncon and the subspace fracture tunneling field, it means this console has 100% uptime, which means you have a 75% shield resistance 100% of the time, and as well as the adaptive emergency systems, which makes these builds that are doing more of a damage theme rather good, because it's a boost to your damage, but it's also a very good boost to your survivability. And then you pair that with things like the Valdor console and harmonic shield linkage. It keeps your shields rather healthy, and then it also then your other tools like your colony consoles, your disco 2-piece, your DPRM, then keeps your health rather healthy as well at the same time. Next up, speaking of the colony consoles, we have our Protomatter Matrix Infusion consoles from the Colony world. These are phaser variants, so our phaser kinetic modifiers, plus 39.4 phaser damage, and a 25% chance to apply restorative Protomatter Matrix. So it's 5% of your hull every 2 seconds for 10 seconds, plus 1,000 shield regeneration every 2 seconds for 10 seconds. And because I have 2 of them, it's a 50%. So basically every second firing mode, I'll get the buff, just topping my HP up. Next up, the Lorcas Custom Fire Controls that we mentioned before. It's here as a stat stick to boost my damage, plus 3.9 crit chance, plus 7.9 weapon power setting, plus 157.5 Starship shield penetration, and to be a 2-piece with the Dark Matter Quantum Torpedo. So guys, it's basically just a boost to my damage, which is a boost to my threat generation, and hopefully means that I keep everybody else alive. Next up, we have the Shield Absorptive Frequency Generator from the Valdor. So either the Tier 3 Valdor from the Dilithium store, or the Legendary Valdor from the, I want to say it's the First Strike bundle. Yep, from the First Strike bundle, the Legendary Valdor. Guys, if you've missed me just then, the Tier 3 Valdor or the Legendary Valdor from the Legendary First Strike bundle. That's where you get this console, which is a very, very powerful tool for your shield healing. And last but not least, the adaptive emergency systems. So guys, it's been unlocked for a little while, but I just want to give it a little backstory. So this was a flagship console for the longest time, and I want to say it's about a year ago, maybe a little bit more. Maybe it would have been a lot more than that now, because they got unlocked a fair while ago. This used to be locked to the flagships, but now it's on every ship. It's a rather good tool because it's a big boost to your damage resistance rating and a nice damage boost. and it can be cooled down while it's running, so it can have extremely high uptime, if not 100%. And yeah, it's just a really valuable console. Next up, guys, my skill tree and my specializations. So this is my standard skill tree that I run on all my builds. I do not change it from DPS, tank, support, EPG, control. This is the build I run on everything. Same skill tree and the same points. I don't have a video on this, but if you want to see a guide on the skill tree, my good friend Casual SAB or Spencer has one. So go check out his channel and you just do a search for skill tree and you'll find it there. And for this build, I'm running Intelligence Officer Primary, Temporal Operative Secondary, mainly just because this was more of a damage build, not a tank build. So I didn't really want the extra survivability of Miracle Worker, and I wanted the damage of the flanking and the dot damage from the Entropic Rider. Next up, my traits. Start off our personal space traits. A good day to die. So basically, guys, this means I can use a go down fighting without being below 50% HP, providing a 50% bonus damage and a 20% boost to my damage resistance rating, and amount increases to 60 if you're using the large ditch effort trait. So if you have that trait of them, that's a nice little boost to your damage resistance rating, but I'm not using it, so I'm at 20. But guys, this is for 15 seconds and also has, I think it's a 15-second cooldown, so it can have extremely high uptime with the right cooldown reduction methods. Next up, Harmonic Shield Linkage. So guys, this is a new trait from the most recent lockbox, the Partners in Crime lockbox that has just left the Dilithium store. Per player ally in the allied NPC of cruiser rank or high within 10 kilometers, 2% shield restored every 2 seconds and 2% shield resistance. So this is stacking up to 10 times. So basically, guys, if you have this at 10 stacks, this is 20% shield restored every 2 seconds and 20% shield resistance. So I am now running this on most of my tank builds because it's just a passive shield heal to pair alongside the Valdor console. I'm not doing shield tanking. I might do a shield tank build one day when to be honest, I'll learn more about it and how to generate threat with it. But I like to pair at least 2 things to heal my shields nowadays with the Valdor console and Harmonic Shield Linkage. Next up, nice and simple, we have Beam Training. 5% bonus beam weapon damage to help me do more damage with my beams. Pretty self-explanatory. If I wasn't lazy, I would have Superior Beam Training for 7.5% bonus damage from K13. But as you can see, I am a lazy, procrastinating bus driver. Next up, Fragment of AI Tech for 20.8% energy damage based on your control. So normally I like to run this because I run a gravity well on most of my tanks, but as you can see here, I just didn't have the room to run gravity well. It doesn't have a high enough seat anywhere to actually get a gravity well, so this trait today is just for the damage boost to my energy weapons, which then again helps my threat generation. Next up, we have Fireball Escape. Now, guys, this is a more recent addition to a lot of our builds in the last couple of months. It's immune. It gives you immunity to warp core breaches, and then when you do get hit by warp core breaches, you get a boost to your turn rate and your flight speed and your defense and crit severity for 30 seconds. But the interesting part about this is it has no cooldown. So basically, you're constantly immune to warp core breaches. So on a slightly squishier ship than this, one of the more harder hitting things in the game are warp core breaches. So to take that out of contention, I'm running Fireball Escape on most of my more squishy builds to make sure I'm not getting hit by warp core breaches. Next up, Intelligent Agent Attaché. On weapon critical strikes, restores 2% of your captain ability recharges. So guys, if you don't know what your captain abilities are for a tactical, that is Attack Pattern Alpha, Go Down Fighting, Tactical Fleet, Tactical Initiative, and Vulnerability Assessment Sweep that I actually can't see on my trays here. That's something I'm missing off my trays here. So, guys, those are your captain abilities. And this every crit of your weapons gives you 2% recharge of those abilities. So more uptime on go down fighting, more uptime on alpha, more uptime on tac fleet, and more uptime on tactical initiative, because you'll be getting them back more often. So meaning you'll be able to hit them more often, not reliant on teammates to hit them for you or to give them to you. Terran targeting systems, an excellent 15 crit severity. So this is probably like, I wouldn't say the weakest trait on this build, but it's probably the, like, say if you didn't have it, it's the one I wouldn't worry about not getting. But it's for 15 crit severity. So basically this is a damage tank, 15 crit severity. Every time I crit, I'm going to do 15% more damage. So it's a little bit of a nice damage boost. Next up, we have the Boimler effect for 17.5% chance to recover all of your bridge officers to their shared category cooldown. So if you don't know what that means, you sit here, see how my abilities are on certain cooldowns. Boom. I don't know if you just noticed them drop down. I got a Boimler proc. Yeah, and if you saw up there, you just saw it flicker, and then it got a Boimler proc. So it's the best method for cooldown reduction that we have in the game. Can be a little inconsistent, so we generally recommend you run like Ox to Stiff or like a Science Team or something that has an extremely low cooldown on its own. So that's like your Boimler proc. You're running through and you have something that's always going to be going off every couple of seconds, and that with everything else means you should hopefully have consistent Boimler procs, keeping everything at its lowest possible cooldown. Unconventional systems, using a control bridge officer ability, gives 7% or minus 7% recharge to universal consoles. So guys, if you don't know what this is, basically these are our universal consoles. See how it has a 2-minute recharge. Clean Getaway here, that's one of our unconventional systems proc. We hit it, and you see if it just dropped a little bit. It gave us some cooldown back of our adaptive emergency system. So with control bridge officer abilities like Clean Getaway, Tractor Beam, Jam Senses, Scramble, Gravwell, and the list goes on, we can cool our universal consoles even more, as well as with our subspace fractal tunneling, giving us very high uptime on our consoles, giving us a lot of strength behind our builds. And last but not least, probably a questionable choice on this build, but it's there now, is the Breen Shield Tunneling from the Partners in Crime lockbox for plus 15% shield penetration with weapons and plus 15 armor penetration with weapons, but minus 10% maximum shield capacity. See, this is a damage tank. I just sort of ran with it. Guys, I'd probably, that also might be one of those, like, if you don't have it, you don't worry about it because it's more of a damage thing, and I wouldn't want to recommend that trait for everybody because it's also a rather expensive trait. So, Intel Handler, Liberated Borg Kingdom Probes, yeah. To be honest, a lot of things. Whole lot of X's. There's plenty of other things I would put on this build happily and not give it a second thought over Breen Shield Tunneling. Alright, next up, everybody, the Starship traits. Entwined Tactical Matrices. When activating Torpedo Spread, applies Fire at Will. When activating Fire at Will, applies Torpedo Spread. So, guys, if you've never heard of Entwined Tactical Matrices, I'm sure a lot of us have. But if you haven't, basically what that means is when you hit Torp Spread, it gives you Fire at Will. Those have a 10-second duration, so you run that for 10 seconds. Then you hit Fire at Will yourself, and that gives you 10 seconds of duration. Torpedo Spread, by the time Fire at Will's over, will be up again, so you hit Torpedo Spread, and that just gives you your Fire at Will uptime. But for lazy people like me, I have it on my spam bar, which means it could be a little bit inconsistent. So that's why I was also running redirecting arrays from the Tucker to make sure I have higher Fire at Will uptime, because Fire at Will is what helps me generate my threat, because that means I'm hitting everything at the same time. Next up, Cultural Conquest from the World Razor. Guys, this was the damage side of this. If you don't have the World Razor, I wouldn't be too worried about it. It's a great damage trait, but for tanking, it's really not that necessary. I have it on this build because I want it. But if you want to like replicate a damage tank, Calm Before the Storm's good. flagship staffing's not bad. There's better options. You could run something like overpowered and overgunned. I'm looking into power shield's credentials as like a shield healing build. That's also an interesting trait. Polarized lattice optimized titanium armor for more tank. Reverberant shielding, ship of the line. They're all good options. So don't feel pressured when I show off lockbox traits to run them. I've got complete free-to-play tanks that I'm going to bring to the channel soon that have tanked Hive with no issues many, many times. So when I show off these traits, don't feel pressured, or that there's an issue that you don't have them. This build can be used without any of this premium gear. Next up, emergency weapon cycle from the Arbiter or the Kurak, or I can never remember the Romulan version. On emergency powder weapons, minus 50% weapon power cost and 20% fire cycling haste. So if you don't know, weapons drain power every time they're shot. So if you can see at the top there, the first couple lines, minus 10 power, we'll go hit emergency powder weapons. And then you'll look back up there, minus 6.7 weapon power cost. So it's reduced the amount of power it's draining per shot with this trait. So it means your weapons will do more damage, meaning you'll have more threat generation because of it. Next up, what I mentioned before, redirecting arrays. Is this another firewall extender? I personally don't recommend it as much because it can't give 100% on its own. The only reason it's on this build is, to be honest, is because I was being extremely lazy with my fire at will and my ETM procs. But it comes from the Miracle Worker Cruiser, the Tasaka class. To be honest, one of the most ugly ships in the game, but it's also another option for a fire at will extension trait if you don't want to worry about ETM. So the Taka class here. It also comes from some KDF, like a KDF ship. I can never remember the name of it. It's not the Charg. It is the Clothos. Redirecting arrays, and as well from a Romulan version of the same ship that I don't know of and I don't own, so I'm not going to sit here and try and find it, guys. If you want to look it up from the wiki. Probably one of the most important traits to have on this build. History will remember. Guys, if you've watched any of my tank videos, you'll know what this does. So, but for those who don't, it's 30 stacks of 1 all damage, 1 hull regeneration, 1 maximum hull, and 10 threat generation. So that's 300 threat generation, 30 hull regen, 30 maximum hull, and 30 all damage. And that's from taking hits. So a tank, you're taking hits, and that's building up your stacks of threat generation. That's building your hull. It's building your hull regen, and it's building your damage. So it is. I'd say it's probably the most important trait to make sure you have when you want to make a tank. Next up, we have Thunder Run from the Connie 3. During Fire at Will, Beam Overload, Cloak, or Cloak Ambush, 20% bonus beam damage. Plus defensive rating, so I'll scoot up to max normal impulse, plus 15 damage resistance. Plus 15 defensive rating, and if in threatening stance, plus 150% threat generation. So guys, because this was a damage tank, as I said a few times now, I like every single one of those stats. I like doing more beam damage, I like plus defensive rating, and I like having more threat generation. Next up, Honored Dead. Guys, this is one of my personal favorite traits in the game, because it used to be, that's the annoying part, it used to be really cheap. It used to be like $1 million EC to get. Like all my toons have it that are Fed based. After receiving 10,000 cumulative damage, gained a stack of Honored Dead, which adds 10 all damage resistance rating and 1 health regeneration, up to 20 stacks. So that's 200 all damage resistance rating and 20 health regeneration I think that's every second while it's going. So that's a lot of damage resistance rating, and it's a lot of health regeneration. And then at 20 stacks, cumulative stacks, or Subsequent activations instead grant 10,000 temporary hit points for 40 seconds. And then when not in combat, lose 1 stacks every 2 seconds unless cloaked. So that's not really too much an issue because most combat, you're just going to be in combat the entire time. So I find that this is a really nice boost to any tank build you have. You know, high-end damage tank, threat tank, heavy tank, support tank. If you need a little bit of a passive boost to your defensiveness, Honored Dead's a great spot to look at. A great trait to look at, not spot. Alright, everyone, next up, our space reputation. Advanced targeting systems for our 20 crit severity. So the standard 3s on this build. Precision, advanced targeting systems, and Tyler's Duality. Those are the 3 mainstays on every damage build. So your plus crit chance from Tyler's Duality, and your plus crit chance from Precision, and your plus crit severity from advanced targeting systems. Just your generic plus to crit, plus to damage traits. And then you'll find on a lot of builds, your last 2 are your choice nodes, as I would like to say. What build are you running? Okay, what do you want to boost now? Like torpedoes are going to run Omega Kinetic Shearing. Not torpedo builds. EPG builds might run Auxiliary Power Configuration. Energy weapon builds run Magnified Firepower, and so on. With tanks, when I need a little bit of survivability, I run Advanced Hull Reinforcement for the plus 12.5 bonus all damage resistance rating. And I like to run recently, I run Automated Protomatic Conduits, run critically hit, 550 shield regeneration every 1 second for 15 seconds, and plus 125% bonus, 125 hull regeneration for 15 seconds. Can be triggered once every 30 seconds. So it's a nice little boost to survivability. Not very controllable, but I like it to just ensure I have that little boost when I get hit the first time. Next up, my active space reputation. Guys, this is pretty much my stock standard for every build. I don't think it really needs too much explanation, other than deploy sensor interference. Probably shouldn't be used on a tank, and probably should swap to tethered non-baryonic asteroid. But I don't use the asteroid, so I just leave this as my stock standard 5. And I generally just don't hit the deploy sensor interference. Next up, everybody, we have the stations. First off, we have our Lieutenant Universal, which I'm running as science because I want the unconventional systems. So Tractor Beam, Scramble Sensors 1, and in our Ensign Universal as well, we have science for our jam targeting sensors. Guys, these are all unconventional systems procs. Next up, guys, we have the Commander Taxi. So you can see here, this ship being a warship, a command warship, it is rather heavy on the tactical seating and the locked tactical seating, and no specialization seating on the engineering. Yeah, I kind of was almost that's why I was almost forced to do this DPS sort of tank, because you look here and go, what are you gonna run on a tank with Lieutenant Commander Pilot TAC? Like, what are you gonna run? So that's why I was like, Chemosite Lace Weaponry with Dark Matter, and a Tropic Rider is gonna do a lot of dots for me, and that's gonna help my threat generation. So, guys, to start off, we have Fire at Will, we have Attack Pattern Beta 1, we have Torpedo Spread 3, to pair alongside Chemosite Lace Weapon 3, and the mainstay are on almost all my tank builds, Suppression Barrage 3, Distributed Targeting 1, Clean Getaway 1 as another unconventional systems proc, and, as I said before, Chemosite Laced Weaponry 3. Guys, that's all just a sort of combination of I want to do a lot more damage than my normal tank to have some fun. Next up, our Lieutenant Commander Engineering, Emergency Powder Engines, Emergency Powder Weapons, and Reverse Shield Polarity 2 for a sort of pseudo, oh shit, I'm like dying, I need a heal to save me, I have Reverse Shield Polarity. Guys, this is all just a nice combination of cooldown reduction, damage, and survivability that I find is working rather well for me. And last but not least, the duty officers. So, being a DPS tank, I'm using some DPS doffs. I'm using 27 of 47, 31 of 47, 26 of 47, and a energy weapon crit officer to increase my crit chance. And as well with Agent Neural to have some healing on our energy weapons, and the emergency con hologram, not on our energy weapons. While under attack, effects of attack pattern beta, each weapon fired restores 0.2% of your max health. So not on your energy weapons, but on your weapons. Sorry, I misspeak there, but a nice little self heal while using attack pattern beta. But guys, if you don't have all these Borgdorfs, I'll just give you some quick recommendations. One's right here. Dal RL. So he's a pseudo Agent Neural. It's on the exchange. While under the effects of attack pattern beta, each weapon fired has a 50% chance to restore 0.2% of your max health, 20% chance to activate fire at will with attack pattern beta once per 30 seconds. So he could be a nice little option if you don't have Agent Neural for tanks. And another option that I like to run on a lot of my builds is a Fabrication Engineer. So we sit here, increases the duration of reverse shield polarity by 8 seconds. So this is a very rare. You could run, an uncommon or a rare for just shorter duration. So guys, if normally reverse shield polarity has a 16-second duration, so I can show you right now. Say I didn't want to run this 26, I go boom, I swap that duty officer. It now has a 24-second uptime. So it gives you a much higher uptime on your reverse shield polarity. And guys, that will be it on this build video. If you have any questions, leave them down below. If you have the will or want to have a further discussion with me about this, I recommend joining my Discord. That's a better spot to have a longer conversation about things. I check that every single day. That's the best spot to get me. And if you want to talk about any one of my builds, that's the spot to do it. But guys, if you've made it all the way through this video, I want to say thank you, and a little quick note at the end, like I've been doing for a lot of my videos. I have a ground build that I'm going to bring to you guys soon. I'm just sort of working on how to do it, or how to really get the thumbnail for it. That's the main part. The build's somewhat set. I can give you a quick teaser here. It's all about spewing lightning out of the hands. That's the build. I have a budget tank that I really need to record. That's probably going to be my next video. And I have a support tank guide that I've been thinking about how to make. But anyway, guys, that'll be it for tonight. Today, wherever you are in the world. If you guys are Epic Games players, if you're buying Zen, if you want to consider me, code NICNB at checkout. So like the channel, NICNB at checkout instead of casual sab or I don't know Stu17 or whoever else has a creator code. If you want to think about me, I'd appreciate it. But anyways, say good night, and I appreciate you all for watching. Bye.
Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 yeah, go, go, go. Hustle hard, hustle every single day. I'll be making moves till I'm buried in my grave. To the system, I don't wanna be a slave. I've been doing shit my way, or the highway. And in the driveway is a nice range. Cause I grind through the climb, I invite pain. You'll never hear me, bitch, nah, I don't complain. Just gotta flip the switch and you can go and obtain anything you want, anything you need. Your mind's got the key ingredient, it's belief. They'll deceive with the negativity, but I just slide right by that energy. Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 go. You got a mind, but even that could change. You could flip the gray matter like some batter in your brain. That's why why they say fake it till you make it A. And if you play that game, then you just might make a change. Rearrange all the bad to okay. Take the worst thoughts saying, turn them to a game. Take the best thoughts saying, put them on display. On repeat in your brain till you're feeling no more pain. Never slow yourself down, you can do some more. Push past all the pain and you'll find a door. Open it up and finally explore everything that you thought you could never do before. And even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go.